ValveTime.net.
Hi, and welcome to yet another Halloween edition of ValveTime Database, a show where we overanalyze subjects related to Valve's games in order to try and identify some larger meaning, or just learn something. In this episode, we'll be following up on our previous episode about the Combine synths, looking at a few of the more unusual and less commonly seen synth designs. As we mentioned in our last episode, synths typically stand as cyborg warriors or equipment forcibly manufactured by the Combine by merging technology and living creatures captured from worlds they have conquered, helping to further establish their universal rule. While these synths typically feature less brutal augmentations compared to those we discussed in Part 1, there's still a lot of rather disturbing additions to mention here, so let's get right back to it. Despite being originally referred to as a mini-Strider in the files of Episode 1, the Hunter is clearly no relative of the Strider at all, with the only substantial similarity being that both creatures feature 3 legs. While this was mentioned in the Prima guide for the Orange Box, Half-Life writer Mark Laidlaw has since confirmed the description seems wrong, despite the species' minor similarities. The Hunter's smaller size and more adjustable legs provide it with far more versatility and agility than the Strider, while its larger array of close-quarters weaponry make it far more able to take on ground units. However, like the Strider, Hunters are also keen on using their legs as weapons to attack in close range, allowing them to charge at extremely high speeds, while also featuring a pair of sharp pincers similar to a pair enclosed below the head. The 2 head-mounted pincers can be unfolded at will by the Hunter to pierce a target to quickly and effectively cause extreme damage, as shown by the Hunter's assault on Alex at the start of Episode 2. They are accompanied by 2 small pairs of feelers, one around the lower eye and one around the base of the head, though these 2 pairs are never shown to be used for violent purposes, instead possibly being reserved for communication or the like. As for the head itself, the Hunter features a pair of vertically stacked bright blue eyes, both of which are able to shoot the creature's trademark flechettes, which explode shortly after making contact. A large black antenna-like object on the back of the Hunter also serves an unknown purpose, possibly allowing them to communicate with other Combine units in the field regardless of their location. This theory becomes very believable when you remember that the Hunters have so far only been seen in more desolate or isolated locations such as forests or snowy wastelands. The Hunter's unimposing armor is actually one of the strongest in the Combine arsenal, taking significantly reduced damage from most small firearms, even if bullets do still manage to cause quite a slash upon hitting their target. Basically, unlike every other synth we'll have covered in these 2 episodes, the Hunter is unique by not featuring any obvious points of augmentation or mechanical adjustment, with all the creature's powerful weaponry and armor seemingly natural to the creature itself. The only questionable marks present on the Hunter's body are small boils beside the eyes, which could feature as a result of experimentation or tampering, but it's entirely possible that they are simply that, small boils beside the eyes. Given the fact that we don't see any Hunters throughout City 17, it's believed that they are exclusively used outside of urban areas in order to, well, hunt opponents of the Combine in harsher terrain where soldiers and Striders are less able to maneuver and destroy the terrain. This also explains why Alex and some of the other citizens at White Forest have next to no idea what Hunters are actually capable of, something we as the player quickly learn over the course of Episode 2. Before we move on, let's jump back to Episode 1 to briefly talk about the Hunter's long history. The Hunter originally premiered during Dr. Mossman's transmission in Episode 1, briefly showing itself before diving towards the camera. The then mini-Strider featured an all-navy blue texture with very simplistic detailing and a very basic model. Despite Episode 1 and 2 being developed alongside one another, the Hunter's exact design clearly wasn't entirely nailed down by the time Episode 1 was shipped in 2006, giving Valve another year and a half to nail down the creature's concept. The Hunter was then shown off multiple times at cut locations around the White Forest base, with fine details such as the rear antenna and the front pincers being gradually added on as time went on. Although the shield scanner is by far the smallest entry to the Combine's existing synth arsenal, it is far from uninteresting. Since they are only shown during the City 17 Street War, shield scanners are likely only dispatched by the Combine in times of all-out war, providing excellent reconnaissance as they float above dangerous territory looking for enemies. Unlike the more regularly seen City Scanner, which is a robot, the shield scanner is quite clearly a cyborg like the other synths, and various natural and unnatural components forming a claw used to lift heavy components. When closed, the shield scanner's design is far more simple and artificial looking, with augmentations including armor plating, numerous Combine logos and insignia, a camera to act as an external eye, and a spotlight on one side of the head. The interior of a shield scanner is a huge mess of cables strutting in and out of whatever remains inside the head, with numerous small devices attached along the way. The shield scanner is clearly one of the Combine's more haphazardly constructed designs, as even when closed, the overcrowded interior appears as if it wants to spill out, with the small front hatch barely managing to stay closed. Despite seemingly featuring the same heavy armor plating as the Striders, gunships, and dropships we mentioned in last episode, shield scanners are relatively easy to destroy with traditional weapons and bullets, possibly due to their smaller, less refined design. Once they are destroyed, shield scanners may drop small Combine batteries, clearly referencing their current dependence on technology and increased requirements to survive. Another outlying synth not similar to any others we know of is the Advisor Pod, large shuttle-like objects used to transport the Combine leadership across long distances at high speed. These white creatures are shown most prominently throughout Half-Life 2 Episode 1, with likely the vast majority of City 17's advisors, at least 13 of them, using the synths as escape pods to flee the detonating Citadel core set to engulf the entire local area in a matter of moments. Like their synth brethren, it's fairly difficult to determine exactly